Hi guys, welcome back to Bunnybrook Designs. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit fun, and we're going to be using some deep purple Preciosa beads and some gold seed beads. These are both 8-ohs, and some cup chain, and I just got this in. So I'm going to open this up. So this is, I think, 4mm, 5mm cup chain. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. 4mm it says. There we go. On the package it says 4mm. So we're going to be using some 4mm cup chain and a couple of really gorgeous lemon shaped beads. And so what I thought we would do is we would do a bead embroidery, and what I'm thinking, and I'll kind of just walk you through what the idea is I'm going to have, it's going to be a pair of earrings, and we're going to have these two items just kind of sitting there, and I'm going to wrap the cup chain, and this is going to be a pain because it's not, we're going to do a figure S on one, but we're going to have seed beads on either side of the cup chain. And then it's going to be purple on one side and then gold on the other. So what we're going to need on top of having two lemon beads, your two colors of seed beads, 4mm cup chain, is I'm going to need a beading needle. And I'm going to need some, I'm going to use Fireline or Wildfire. I'm going to use crystal, and I've got some here. And to start out with, I am just going to take a little longer, maybe a wingspan and a half of beading of Fireline, and we're going to get started. I'm not going to cut my felt until I figure out just how big a piece of felt I'm going to need, just because I don't want to waste I don't want to waste my felt. Now, you don't have to do felt. You can do fabric. I will be starting to do some videos. And I know I'm off camera right now. I'm trying to thread my needle through a magnifying glass because I'm using a size 12 beading needle. And Fireline is very stiff going through that really thin needle. Anyways, so I'm going to be starting a series of videos doing shibori and bead embroidery and soutache, along with some series of wire wrapping. So I am just going to pick a spot on my felt to start, and I'm gonna give myself a good space at the top. And what I'm gonna do to start out with, just so I don't have to worry about the thread coming out, is I'm going to make a knot. So I know you're not going to be able to see this very well, but I have just a little piece of thread left. I've got a little tail. I'm just going to make a I'm going to go through the felt with just a little space, so it's just tucked in there. And then I am just going to tie a knot on the back of the felt here real quick. And then I'm just going to go back up through where my thread is. Doesn't have to be perfect, but that's going to get covered by our lemon. And so I'm just going to go through the lemon. And what I'm going to do real quick before I start sewing is I'm just going to draw a line. Just going to draw a line here. And the reason for that is when I line up my lemon here, so let me bring this down. And when I line this up, and it doesn't have to be perfect, I'm going to line it up so that the point is going to be on the line, just so that way it doesn't, and I'm going straight through that line to start out with. So the thread is actually going to go underneath the cup chain, or the lemon. And then now that I've got it on there, I am going to hold it down. Now you could stick this down with some glue too. If you wanted to get it to stay, you could actually glue that to the felt to start out with. And now that I know where it's going to be, I'm going to come right up next to it. I'm going to pull my thread through, and sorry, I just hit the camera setup. Going to go back through my top, because again, I just want to get this set. And I do have an awfully long piece of thread here, because we're going to be trying to do most of this with one piece of thread. Now you don't have to. I'm going to move that light. You could do this in, 2 or 3 pieces of thread. You could do it however you wanted. You don't have to do the single piece of thread like I'm doing. All right, so now that we've got that, now I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to go through the bottom. I'm just trying to tack this down. We are going to go through this several more times, just to make sure that it's tacked down really well. And like I said, if you felt more secure, you could put some E6000 underneath and glue it down. I don't feel we need to, because again, I'm going to go through this probably 3 to 5 times before we're done. And as you can see, I'm just going to make sure that I am tucking down right where I need it to be, because I want these to be straight, because the two lemons are going to be pointing straight. And so, this one's, it looks like it's off a little bit. Again, you can adjust it by going up through the felt as close as you can get it, and I'm angling it. So when I'm doing my thread here, and I don't know if you can see this very well, I've got my needle. Instead of going straight, I'm going on an angle so that I'm right up next to the lemon, as close as I can get it. It's not necessarily perfect. And then I'm just making sure that it goes through all the way. And then I'm going back down. And again, to start out with, the first one doesn't have to be super, super perfect. I just need to make sure that it is on the line, which that looks pretty good. And so now I've come down through this side. I'm going to do a diagonal, so I'm going to come back up through. And sometimes you can do the diagonal, sometimes it's really hard to get through on the diagonal. It depends on the bead, but I'm going to go diagonally through and come out the top. This is just going to be another way to anchor it so that it's holding it down. So then I'm going to go down through the felt. I'm going to come back up through the top on the other side and then do a diagonal in the other direction. So now not only do I have it twice going across this way on top and bottom, but I've gone across once this way. I'm going to go across once this way. And any thread, because I can see some thread there, any thread that you see, again, because I'm using white felt and white thread, will disappear once we get all of those beads on. All right, so now I've got that down. And there we go. So that is on there. That's pretty secure. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Again, if you wanted to, you could put some glue on there. I don't think I need to. I think that's pretty good. I may do one more on the diagonal just to get me back up closer to the top so that we can start our seed beads. So, while I'm doing this stitch, I know I had mentioned in the last video that I was going to be doing a craft fair, and I did. So, Sunday, I did a craft fair in Hilliard, Ohio, and it was disappointing to say the least. It was probably, to be honest, was probably the worst show I think I've ever done. You know, I've had days at the farmer's market that I've made zero. And that, you know, it's a farmer's market and people aren't there necessarily to buy jewelry. But that's only $30 a year. So this show, I spent $95 on the table and made zero sales. I wasn't the only one that was complaining. There was many people that were surprised that they hadn't made any money. And a couple of people suggested maybe it was because of it was Palm Sunday. So I'm going to chalk it up to that because I've never not sold at least one thing. All right, so I came up through the felt at the top, maybe just a couple of centimeters, couple millimeters past the tip of the lemon. And I'm going to take 2 purple beads and I'm going to start doing my bead embroidery. But I want to make sure that that first bead is right there at the top. And I'm going to come back down. And then we're going to go back up through. So we're going to do this, and this is going to go pretty quickly. We're going to come back up through between the two. Oh, and I hit my camera setup again. I am so sorry, guys. I probably could shrink this down a little bit so I don't have such, like, I just make my tail longer so that it shortens up the thread, because I can always extend the tail later. So yeah, so the craft fair was awful. Now I'm going to include a clip here at the end of this video. I'm going to show you what I liked about my booth, or I'm going to talk about what I liked about my booth here in this video that we're doing. And I'm going to tell you what I'm planning on doing to try to make it a little bit better. So anyways, while I'm doing that, we're going to be doing 2 seed beads at a time, because again, I want to make sure that I am pretty close to being even. I'm not doing any kind of peyote, so honestly, it doesn't have to be even. I'm just going down through the fabric. Now, at this point, I'm also noticing that I can see white through that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself a purple marker. And I've got a purple Sharpie paint pen here that I could take. And I'm going to do purple on this side just because. And I'm just going to color over so that we can see the fabric is, and then I'm just wiping it off before it dries off of my bezel. And I think that's going to look better. Now, I could have done this after the fact, but I'm going to do it now just so that the purple and it may not show once I'm done, but I could see it, so it was bugging me. All right, so anyways, so things I liked about my booth. I liked the fact that I was able to use a lot of vertical space. I had, ooh, how did we get that through there? There we go. I had maximized my vertical space. I liked the ability that I had to, why does that keep coming through? Or is that, there we go. I liked the fact that I was able to set it up. It took me about 2 hours to set up, mostly because I had to put the individual earrings and everything onto the display. It would have taken me longer if I hadn't set up the display ahead of time and just loaded it full up in my car. Downside to that was I didn't have enough room in my car for a lot of stuff. I probably had about 1/10 of my jewelry out. All right, so what I'm doing here, now that I've got like 6 beads on, I can start my normal back stitching where I go through 3 beads at a time. So I'm just coming back up through between, if I can get there, between the middle of the 6 beads, and I'm going back through those 3. And so we're just going to continue to do that. It's not going to take that long to get to the spot where I need to stop and pull in some cup chain. Let's see, what else about my booth did I like? I liked that it was unique and other people did not have anything similar. I liked that you could see a lot of stuff. You could pretty much see, you know, what was out, and I had room in front of the displays, the vertical displays, to set things. What I didn't like about my booth was from a distance, and I did manage to get away from my booth at one point and look back at my booth. And while you could see that I had a booth there and I had lights on my booth to kind of accent things, the problem is you could not see what I had for sale because the booth was see-through. Like, there was nothing behind the racks that I had. So literally you could basically see right through to the other side. Now, when I was at home and setting it up, I didn't take into account the fact that I was testing it against a wall, and that wall is solid, so it looked fine sitting here in my house. But when you're in a room with 100 other people, you need to have something behind it. So I've got on order 2 things. You know, the other thing I didn't like about my displays, and I'll just keep going before I tell you how I'm going to fix it, was that my earring cards were all different colors because I bought a pack from Amazon that had like pinks, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just put the color of the earring card to match the jewelry. The problem with that is my setup didn't look clean and cohesive. It looked kind of messy and all over the place because there was different size earring cards and different colors. And so to correct it, I bought, and they should be coming in this weekend, I bought a bunch of earring cards and necklace cards and necklace things that are all the same color. So they're all one color. They're iridescent, so, you know, they're fun. And then they are, so they're going to be cohesive. And then I've got some things coming to work on the display where I'm going to, instead of doing the little round clips that you use on those wire cube shelving, they have those little round plastic things where you hammer in the shelves. I'm getting zip ties that are removable, but I'm also getting some dowel rods. And instead of using the clips, I'm going to zip tie the shelving to the dowel rods so that the vertical portion will stay upright, but then I can just fold in the shelving so they'll lay flat, and then I can just open them up when I get to the craft fairs. Anyways, I will do a video on that once I get it. All right, so now that I've gotten to the bottom here, I am going to go back down through my fabric just at that point where I think I'm good. I am going to take my paint marker here because I'm going to be doing purple on this side. I'm going to go out a little ways, but I'm also going to do purple on this side because I know I'm going this way with the purple. And then because I'm going to be doing gold on the other side, I'm going to grab a gold marker, and I just got to get this one shaken up because this is a paint pen. So now when you get these paint pens, so these Deco Color Premium, I love these for the metallic gold. You do have to, it's like a spray paint can. You have to hear that noise in order for it to work and be shaken up. And I'm going to go on this side, and I'm going to do gold on this side. So this is basically what it's going to look like when we're done. We're going to have this figure 8 look with, all right, so now on this side, I am going to do some cup chain. And to start out with the cup chain, what you're going to do is you're going to place, and I'm going to estimate how much I'm going to need. Probably about that much. So I want to start this first cup chain right at the edge. So I'm going to stick my needle through right just shy of the line, because I'm going to have that first cup or the first crystal on the cup chain, and I'm going to take it around my thread here. I want that first one right there. So now I'm just going to tuck this down and tack it down. Now, when you're using cup chain, you're going to have to decide two things. One, do you want spaces between your crystals, or do you want them tight together? So, it fell off, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my pinky in where the loop is going to be, because the first part of it is hard. And so there's my pinky, there's my loop. I'm going to pull it down until it's just about a pinky length. And then I'm going to put my cup chain on. I'm going to hold it with my finger. And then I'm just going to pull that thread until it gets in between those two. And now that's not really going to go anywhere. I am going to reinforce this. At least once on this spot. And then just pull nice and tight. So now my cup chain is at least anchored down to the felt. And now I'm going to decide, do I want it super tight? So when I say super tight, I mean it's like that. It's close together. Or do I want the little spaces? And it's not going to be a big space, but do you want there to be a lot of space? And I'm going to go with not as much space because I don't want a ton of space. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up between the cup chain and my beads. And I'm just going to go down on the side of the cup chain as close as I can to the seed beads. And you'll notice here that this seed bead, I'm going to add another seed bead here in purple before I go for the gold, but I didn't want it to go too far over because, again, we want to make sure this is uniform. I'm going to reinforce that one, and I'm going to reinforce these at least twice. I'm going to basically go over them twice just because I don't want the cup chain coming loose, coming apart. Now, you could glue this down. And so I'm going to find my next spot right up between. And then go right back down. And if you notice, once I get it hugging the felt, and I know I've got this stiffened felt that I over stiffened that I have to deal with for a few. Like, this is, I think, the last of it. So thankfully, I don't have to worry about extra stiff felt anymore. All right, so I'm going to continue sewing this down, and then we'll get to the next step. In the meantime, I will tell you, we'll talk about my booth. So I also got, because I'm going to continue to use the wire racks, I'm going to try it for another fair. But one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some faux leather, and I've got silver and black coming. So I'm going to take some faux leather, and I am going to make basically a covering for the interior of the and did I go through? I did go through that. Darn it. There we go. I'm going to make a cover for the back side of it so that it's no longer see-through. That way, when I go to craft fairs, people, when they look at my booth, they'll see my booth and not my booth and everybody's booth behind me. The other thing I'm going to do is, because it's a grid type cabinet that I'm using, those grid cubes, I'm going to take the grid hooks, and instead of doing individual jewelry cards, just laying single piece at a time, I'm going to put the hooks on and get the small, like 1-inch, 2-inch hook, and I'm going to put multiples on the hook so that I can get more jewelry. I had things in baskets for people to look through. The problem is people would look through the first couple of items on the basket, and then they wouldn't really look at anything beyond that. So those kind of are a failure. A lot of times, unless people are really serious about buying something, they're not going to pick through things. And so I'm going to do it where they don't have to pick through anything. Oh, that's going to look really fun. All right, so we're going to continue on. And I'm just trying to here get it, and I'm probably off camera. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get it so that it's hugging those seed beads as good as they possibly can. We may even put some French wire down in between there if... No, actually, that's pretty good. It's pretty tight. But, okay, so, yeah, so I've got the covering, I've got the dowels coming, I've got the new earring cards coming, signage. I had signs out, but not very many, so one of the things I'm also doing is I'm going to start putting out signs to be like earrings, bracelets, and just do sections. So if somebody's coming and they're looking for a pair, they're looking for earrings, they know which section's earrings. If they're looking for bracelets, they know which sections are bracelets. The other final thing that I did, or I'm doing, is I got two little display cases. You've probably seen them on Amazon or even at other craft fairs. They're the wood cases with the felt or the velvet like interior, and they've got the glass windows. I'm doing that because I want to have the ability to put my wire wrapped and the things like this, the more expensive stuff, in a case. And I think I'm going to leave that for now and let those dangle. I will attach those the remainder after. Now I'm going to come back up through straight at the top, and this is where my line, if I extended my line correctly, would help, but I can pretty much see where I need to be, which is right there. And so I'm going to start adding seed beads again. So I'm going to pick up 2 8/0s. And now you don't have to do 8/0s on this. You can do 11/0s, 15/0s. I wouldn't do 6/0s. I don't know if that would be too much in the way of beads, but I'm going to go back around with this, and I'm going to continue to do and I am going to just color in a little bit more, which tells me this side needs to come out some, and probably the gold will need to come out some. All right, so now we're just going to continue picking up beads. And then, so, let's see, what else? The positives of the craft fair that I did, there was two good things that did come out of the craft fair. One, I got an invitation to another juried craft fair because the woman that came around was looking at my booth and she really liked the way I had set it up. She said it was unique. She hadn't seen anything like it before. And she liked my jewelry. It was unique. It wasn't like everything that was being done that she had seen. So she sent me an invitation. So I will probably try that later this year. That's in like October or November. And then I got free news coverage and I will put a link to the news clipping so you can see, while they don't have my business name, they have a picture of my booth. It's the one that's right next to Crafty Chaos or something like that, or Crafter Chaos, or I forget what it specifically was. But I was right next to the crochet booth. And that was pretty cool. So I got my jewelry shown on the Channel 6 News. So that's free advertising. And so, you know, that's always good because people see that and they're like, oh, look at that piece of jewelry or whatever. And granted, the photo was kind of hard to see a lot of stuff. And you'll see when you see my little video that I shot after setting up, you know, what the booth looked like. There wasn't a lot of space. So, you know, everything was really tight. You got to be careful, like with some craft fairs, they will do that. They'll jam you in with like, so we had a 3-foot by 6-foot booth space and the table was 2 foot wide. So you had 1 foot behind your table and then you were right up against, another vendor who had 1 foot of space behind their table. And so that was a little tricky navigating that because if you had to do anything, you were bumping up into people. So, so you had to kind of make nice with your neighbors. It was interesting to say the least. I learned a lot. I got some ideas to fix my booth. It was a good trial run. While I didn't make any sales, you know, it happens. I've done craft fairs that have, you know, I've barely made my booth fee back, or in this case, nothing. And then I've had other craft fairs where, I've made, you know, $1,200 in a 6-hour day. So, you know, I've been so busy selling things on days that it's like I don't even have time to go to the bathroom. You know, that's how busy you are. So it just depends on the day. It depends on the craft fair. You know, make note of, you know, how you do. Again, I think because it was spring and it was it's close to Easter Sunday, and you know, this video is probably coming out after Easter Sunday, so it was not great, but you live and you learn. And all right, so I think I like that. What do you think so far? All right, so we're getting there. I'm just going to bring that up to the camera. It's going to be a very sparkly earring. I do like that. I like that it's, you know, bright and colorful. It's, you know, going to be somewhat big, but not super, super big, I don't think. And we are going to make this into a point. So I'm going to, just so you know, instead of going up to the lemon drop, I am going to kind of teardrop it down to a point. Just so that you have a definite bottom and a top. All right, so almost done with this first part. And again, we're going to do all of the purple first, and then we're going to go back and do all of the gold. And sorry, I just hit the camera again. And the reason being is so that you set up your pattern with the purple, because the purple is going to be on the top. Now, if you wanted to do the gold where the gold goes across the top, if you will, so in other words, the gold's not broken in half like I'm doing, the purple kind of goes across, then you would do the gold first, and you'd do the same thing. Or whatever color. And if you don't like the cup chain and you wanted to do just 3 rows of seed beads or 2 rows of seed beads, you know, or 1 row of seed beads and just make little earrings. I mean, I could have done just 1 row of purple seed beads, 1 row of gold, and then just, you know, made small earrings. but I wanted this to be sparkly and, you know, I wanted it to be a little bit more of a dangle earring. I was thinking about making this a post, but I think I'm gonna go with dangles. I will do another one where I make a post, or maybe even just take a little round circle and make a you know, make a post out of, you know, maybe a third one of these. And, you know, so you have the second one here, and then you have a third one that's just a little circle, and you make a post out of it or something. I don't know. I haven't decided how to finish it yet. We're just working on the earring part at this point. So and I'm doing these because I've got time in between the bead boxes, my bead boxes coming in. So I normally do my bead box jewelry. Unfortunately, I just haven't figured out what I wanted to do with the curated bead box. So it's still sitting on my workbench in the box. And while I did the unboxing, I have no idea what I want to do with it. So at that point, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just work on some things that I know will make me happy. And then we'll figure out what to do with those beads. I may do something else. I may try some bead embroidery, or maybe a boho bracelet, because then I could do something with it. So now the next question is going to become, because I do not have these purple beads that are going to be good for the edging. Like I want to do 11/0s for edging. I don't have the same color purple for in 11/0s, so I may have to come up with another idea on edging, but we'll figure that out. All right, so there we've gotten it over to my center line. So I'm just over the center line. I am going to go back through the fabric, and don't worry if it doesn't look perfect up here just yet. We will be fixing that. So I am just sticking my needle back down through. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be down. And then I'm going to put on my next crystal right up against these seed beads. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this row of seed beads here has to be the first one around my my bead. So we're going to hold this on the line. So I'm holding it on the center line, trying to make sure it is even to this bead here. And it's not a bead, it's a crystal. And I'm going to come up through, go through, and not get hooked on the corners of anything, and then literally go back down through and get it at least tacked down. So we're at least tacked. Trying not to get snagged on the crystals here. So I am, how did that get? Somehow managed to go get my thread wrapped around the cup chain. Now again, if you didn't want to have the cup chain, and I wrapped it around the wrong, I went through the wrong way. If you don't want to have the whole thing of cup chain out like I do right now, and this is why, because it gets twisted, you could opt to cut. So I'm just going to cut at this point because it's annoying me. I'm going to take a pair of big pliers. And if I have to, you know, if I have a few little pieces left, so be it. And that's not going to work. Let's try the flush cutters. There we go. So now I can get this out of there. There we go. And I can set that aside. There. All right. So now we're back to where we need to be. All right. So I went through there once. I'm going to go back up through a second time, but before I do that, I think I want to tack the bottom on because I want to make sure it is on the line. Ow. If I don't stab myself first. I got to be careful of that. And again, you want to make sure that you're lining up correctly with your, because what you don't want is to have the beads skewed. So in other words, I want these two to be even. I don't want this to be off like this. That would look weird. I mean, you could do it if that was what you were intending to do. You could do that. I mean, it's your artwork, but I want these to be kind of in line with each other to look like, you know, they're getting wrapped by the crystals, or the crystals are getting wrapped by the seed beads, in a figure 8. All right. And now I'm going to go back up through the top, and I'm going to go, that'll be number 2. So I'm doing at least 2 on each, and then I'm going to go and do the diagonal because I definitely want to make sure that it is tacked down really nice and tight. And again, I could glue this. And again, if you have your line and you keep it on the line, then you should be good to go when it comes to getting the things lined up. You know, so feel free to draw lines and grids and things on your felt and your fabric. You know, you don't have to color them in like I did. You could leave them white. And make sure that your beads are nice and tight. All right, so now I'm going to go do my diagonal. And you will find that the diagonals will hold it down a little bit better than just going across. It gives you a good anchoring. And then I'm going to come up this side. And I always make sure that when I do my diagonals, that I do it so that my thread is close to where I need to continue on beading with my seed beads. Okay, come on. Seriously. There we go. That way, when I come back down through here, there's not as much thread on the back that's coming that I have to come up through when I come back up. So I'm coming from this spot here to this spot up here, and it's not nearly as long of a stretch. And it doesn't really matter how many beads you go through at this point because you're just reinforcing this. So I came up between like 4 and 5. That's fine. I'm going to go through 4 beads to come out my end here. If I don't get tacked onto the corner. And then what we're going to do now that we're through there is I'm now going to start curving my beads around the other, if I cannot tie things in knots. So this is why I don't like cup chain all that much. I mean, I use it sometimes, but not a lot because it annoys me. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my outside. So my outside on this top crystal is becoming the bottom, or the inside on my bottom crystal. And so now I'm just going to start by getting the first 2 in as close to the crystal as I can. And again, trying not to get it wrapped around your thread and your cup chain. Once the first piece of cup chain is down, it'll be a little bit easier. The second piece of cup chain, you can pretty much estimate how much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll probably need 8 pieces for this side. If I do cup chain, I may just do gold seed beads on that one. Just to do something a little different. Do 3 or 4 sets of gold seed beads. Because again, it does not have to be, symmetrical, as long as whatever I do on this earring here. So when I'm doing this earring, the purple is this way. When I do the second earring, the purple is going to be this way. So it's going to be the backwards S. So you just have to remember that when you're beading. And again, you don't have to do it. I can make this earrings look exactly the same. However, I like to mirror all of my earrings. I don't like the earrings being the same unless they're symmetrical. So meaning, you know, if I had purple on both sides and it wasn't this figure 8 and I was just doing, let's say, this and then just a thing of seed beads, you know, if I was doing purple all the way around, you know, it may not make a difference, but for, you know, because of the design, it needs to be symmetrical and mirrored. Okay, so this won't take that long to get the first row of beads, and then we can go back up and do the cup chain. And I may have enough beads to do, or I may have enough thread to do all of the purple. I may need to get a new thing of thread to do the gold, depending on what's left after I get done with these. And that went up through, and I'm just going to go through 4 there. I am going to come back up through those because I don't want to be through 4, but it came up through the wrong spot. So I'm just going to reinforce there. And it never hurts to reinforce things. If you're finding that, you know, your beads are a little bit loose in a spot, you know, you can always reinforce. There. Well, we'll go through 2. Or 3. Do we want to go through? We'll go through 2. I want that third one to be tighter. And that's the thing. If you notice your seed beads are a little bit loose, like I've got a couple of loose beads there. So what I'm going to do is I just pulled it a little bit tighter. When I put these next seed beads down, these next 2, I am going to make sure they are super, super tight when I put my needle through the fabric, so that they're really up close to that. And then I'm going to come back up through that last one, or close to that last one on the inside. Because again, I'm a stickler for not having thread showing. I don't like thread showing. I want you to look at it and figure, and I want people to look at my work and figure out, like, how the hell did she put that together? And sit there and be puzzled by how I did it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is on this one, I am going to come down into a point right there, and I'm going to stop my purple. Do I want to do that, or do I want to make it a full figure 8? Yeah, we're going to do that. All right, so we're going to stop that there because I have an idea on how to finish this. So again, going to go back up through and go back through 2 because that's where I came out of. And then we're going to go back up and do the cup chain. And don't worry, we are going to finish this off. We will put a little drop there. And now let's get our cup chain completely tacked down. So figure out which one is still up on the cup chain, and then just go and tack down your cup chain. So I'm just going in between and pushing it tight and doing it twice just to make sure that they're secured down. In between, because I don't want this coming up and again coming up as close to the seed beads as possible, grabbing the cup chain and making sure that you're as tight as you can up against the cup chain bottom. Trying not to make knots in my needle with my needle, and tucking that down. Ow. Try not to stab yourself. And see, doing all this jewelry, this is why I have no nails and no nice fingertips, because I'm always doing this. And I use my hands. I know a lot of other people will use beading, like finger savers, or I don't even know what they're called, but, you know, thimbles, I guess, so that they're, you know, not pushing the needles with their thumb and And I've tried those things. I feel like I don't have good control while wearing them. And I'm sure if I got used to them, it would be different, but... So, anyway, I'm going to continue sewing this down. And I'm going to pause you because we are already at an hour. So I'm going to pause you. I'm going to get this sewed down. I'm going to get this other purple here. And then I'm going to show you how to continue working on up here. So I will be right back. All right, guys. So I finished doing my beads. And as you can see, I cut, now that I know about how big my earring is going to be, I cut out my felt. So what I'm going to do now is I'm coming out here, and I did a 1 bead down here only because I didn't have room for 2. I'm going to come back up through up here, and sorry about the noise in the background. My bunny's deciding she's going to play. I'm going to come back up through several beads on this round because I need to add another purple bead here. And I'm going to put 1 on and see if 1's enough here to get it to where I need it to be, or if I'm going to need 2. So I am going to tuck this bead in between the cup chain if I can get it to go in. It's going to be a tight fit. 1 should be enough. Should. We'll do 2. I'm going to do 2. Just because I want it to stick out just a little bit more than it is. Because that cup chain... and because we didn't tack down the dead end, we tacked in between those cup chains, it will move a little bit for you to get the beads in. 2, let me do 1. I'm going to do 1 and tuck it down and tack it down, not tuck it, tack it down and see if 1 is enough. If not, then we will do a second one, and I'm going to go directly at that point and pull it tight. There we go. I'm going to come back up through just because I need to come out, and I think that should be good enough. Yes, that's perfect. So now that I'm coming out of that bead, we need to start curving the gold beads around. And so I'm going to open up my gold beads. I'm done with the purple for the moment, so I'm going to set those aside. And I'm going to open up my gold beads. And I'm going to take 2 gold beads. And I'm going to start by wrapping these around, and these are going to be a little bit bigger than my other 8/0s because Preciosa tends to be smaller. So this is going to go probably a little bit quicker, and that's fine. And because, again, I'm starting with the gold, I'm going to come up through just those gold beads at the moment and tack those down and get those nice and tight, or as close to tight as I can get them at the moment. They're going to be a little bit loose. That's fine. They'll get tacked down a little bit better here once we get a couple more. And I'm going to, I think with this side, I may skip the cup chain. I may just do the cup chain on the one side with the purple. And just do this with as many rounds of gold as I need to get. And so now I'm going to come up between the 1 and the 2 bead and go through 3, which will help tack down those first 2 beads. and make them nice and tight. And I am pulling pretty good on those. And while I'm still on the same thread, which is good, I probably will need to transition to a second thread here at some point. I don't know if I'm going to have enough with the 1.5 wingspans. And so I'm going to have to, it's going to be tight, but I'm going to try to get 2 beads in there. I may have to pull it out. Yeah, see, 2 beads is going to be, 2 beads is too much. So I'm going to take my thread off. I'm going to take, whoops, I'm going to throw away 1 bead. And I'm going to try the one bead. And I may see if I can find some smaller 8/0s. So I do have that for Preciosa. Do I have... So I have soft gold and Preciosa. And I didn't want to use the soft gold. I wanted to use the bright gold. And so that was why I was using those. Because again, I wanted this brighter gold. It's just the beads are so big that I'm going to have a hard time fitting the right number of beads in there, and I'm going to have a gap, and I don't want a gap. So we need to figure out, maybe we can space these beads out just enough that we can do that. And so that's another trick of the trade, is if you're having a hard time with spacing, just kind of space it out. And to space it out, you can take your needle and thread and do a tacking stitch in between some beads, like every couple of beads. So like that. Just kind of tucks it down. And so that works. So now I'm going to come out here right next to that bead that, if I can get my needle where I want it. So right next to that bead I just finished tacking down, and I'm going to pick up a couple of beads. And I think I'm going to just do this going this way, because I think I like just the gold on this side. And we'll see if we need to do 3 sets, or if 2 sets will work. And so I've got an idea for how to finish this that's going to make it a little bit easier to do the finishing. I think we're going to put some gold French wire around it at the end, so everything's wrapped in gold French wire, which will also, I could put French wire in and do this. So do it around here, around here, around here, and then around here. But I could also tuck some French wire in there if I need to. And then this is going to come around, and we're going to need more beads on this one than we did on the other one. So that first one round took 2, 4, 6, 7 beads. This one will probably take 9 to 10. Just because we are a little bit more widthwise over. And I'm just going to come back through my 3 beads there, pulling those nice and tight. Trying not to get snagged. The biggest thing that we're going to want is to make sure we're able to get a seed bead right up into these here. So you're going to we're going to keep going until we have those tucked in. And I'm making a mess of seed beads everywhere here on my table. So unfortunately, I've been doing a lot of designing off camera. And when I say designing, I mean designing. I haven't actually built anything. So I've been playing with beads, getting ideas. Unfortunately, that makes my work table messy because I get beads out to look at them and then I don't necessarily put them away. All right, I think 2 more. I'm going to guess 2 more. And 1 more. One more. Oh, come on. Yeah, 1 more. All right, so now we're going to continue on with that, and I'm going to come out up here right next to my crystal and up a little bit. I don't know. I'm debating whether I'm going to need another. Let's see. So if I do this here, I should have enough room to do a 4th row of gold beads. So we'll start out with 2. As usual, I like to start out with 2. And so, in looking at this, there is a little bit of space between the crystal and this seed bead, but that's fine. Maybe we can fill that in with something. Maybe we don't need to, depending on what it looks like when I get these 2 rows done. We are going to have to get new thread to do the bottom because I do need to come out this one. So once I get down here, I'm going to have to come up to the top, and I don't know if I'm going to have enough thread. So I may need to add more thread here before we do the last row. Although I am liking this. I really am liking this pattern. I think this is a good pattern. We may need to get another seed bead or something in there. I may see if I can find a 11-0 gold and do 11-0 golds in between in those little spaces. Or just because it's next to the crystal, maybe do a French wire or something. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, I am gonna need to get some new thread here very shortly. Probably at the end of this row. So no, I know we were talking while I'm I can't even talk now. While I'm finishing this row, I know we've been talking about craft fairs. Have any of you have you done craft fairs? And what have your experiences been? Have you had, good craft fairs, failure craft fairs? Would love to know your experiences. You can leave me comments. While I may not respond to everybody, I do read the comments. And I'd like to welcome all my new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Watching and subscribing helps my channel. All right, I think we're going to be able to put one more bead on this. I think we're going to force a bead in there. Ow. As I stab myself in the thumb. And that's the other thing is when you're making these, don't be afraid to bend like that because, when you flatten it back out, it will tighten everything back up. But in doing that, I think it allows me to tuck beads in and figure out where I need to stick my needle. All right, there we go. All right, I don't have a whole lot of thread left, so I am going to finish this off by just going underneath some threads, making a quick knot here. And I'll do one more quick knot. Because again, this is all going to get glued, and then I'm just going to go through some of the felt just to tuck it and then trim the thread. So, we got quite a bit, and I'm going to do one more there because I do want it pretty big. And I do like that. I think that's really fun for an earring. And I will show you how to do the bottom. So I am going to get a thread. I'm going to do this one side. I'm going to start this side, and then I will be back to show you what I'm doing on camera just because I'm trying to keep this video short. So I will be right back. All right, guys, real quick. So I've gone around with my number 4 there, and I've started number 1. Now I'm doing this part a little bit different because I do want these guys to kind of make a point here. So I am always going to start up at my top part here and go around just so I can make sure that end point does come to a point right about there. So again, it's going to be the same as it is when you're doing your bead embroidery. Is you're going to pick up 2 and go down, and because I don't have very many, I'm going to go back up through and go back through both of those 2 seed beads. Once I get the next 2 on, we'll come up between 1 and 2 to tack 1 and 2 down better. And again, these seed beads that I got, they're not great. They're not really uniform. I don't know where I got these, and I don't know what brand they are. I don't remember. Usually I get all my beads from Fire Mountain Gems, but whether I got a batch that, you know, weren't great. Some of these are pretty thick, and some of them are standard, but I'm seeing some variations, so you got to be careful with that. I usually like Tohos or Dynamites because they're more uniform. I've noticed the Preciosa and some of the other beads that I've bought. Miyuki's good. Miyuki, Toho. Miyuki and Toho are the best. Dynamites are next, you know, they're like number 3 on my list of, you know, perfect beads. Toho tends to run a little smaller than the Miyuki. Dynamites are run a little bit bigger. Preciosa tend to be smaller and have smaller holes compared to all of the other brands. So again, you've got to be careful, you know, when you're buying beads. Unfortunately, I have a bunch of mixed matched brands, and at some point I'd like to get everything switched over to have a single brand, whether it be Toho or Miyuki, so that I know all my beads are the same and they're uniform. But I mean, it's not super bad. Because again, all my beads, I don't go to Walmart and buy my beads. If you've ever done that, I'm sure you've seen the quality of the Walmart beads. Stay away from those. They're cheap, not great quality, and definitely not uniform. So, all right, so what I'm doing here is I'm getting close to my edge where I want to make a point. And again, I want to go straight. At this point, I'm going to go straight and see if I can get my beads nice and tight so that I can fit at least 1 more, if not 2 more seed beads in that point there. So I need to come up between 3. There we go. And I think I can get 1 more in there. I'm going to try 1. 1. I'm used to picking up 2, so I grabbed 2. I only need 1. So 1 will fit in there nicely. I'm going to go right next to that cup chain. So this is how we're going to make a point on this to make it. And so now you can decide whether you want this to be the top or you want this to be the top. However you want to do it. Once you get your beads on, you can then determine what's top and bottom. I'm going to come again back up here for row number 3. And I'm going to continue to go around, except this time now I'm going to come in front of this cup chain and go to this bead here, and then the final row is going to come out and go right down past this purple bead to form a point. Although I almost like it with the 3 beads on the bottom. I don't know. We'll see. Because then that would make the bottom a little smaller, or if you want to make that the top. We'll get through row number 3 and we'll see what I think. Because what I don't want to have, the only thing I don't want to have is this cup chain sticking out at the end. I want that cup chain completely surrounded by seed beads, which it will in this round. And it's okay if you have 4 on the bottom or 4 on this section here and only 3 here. Because again, it's as long as we mirror it on the other earring, we'll be fine. And of course, you don't have to make this an earring. You could make it a pendant. I think that would be great as a pendant with, some fancy bead woven necklace, with those colors, or even another, bead embroidery collar. But I'm going to make these into earrings. And I haven't decided yet exactly how to finish them, so that may need to wait until the next video, when I have both pairs of earrings and we can do the finishing, because again, I don't know what I want as top and what I want as bottom on this just yet. I don't know what I want to do for my edging. And because this is art, keep in mind that what you have in your head, because I had something in my head and I can guarantee you this does not look like what was in my head. While it looks good, it does not look like what was in my head. So just keep that in mind, that it may not be perfect. It may not look exactly the way you were thinking it was going to look. And you may hate it. Like, you may get done with it and you may go, oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever beaded. And I'm going to tell you, put it aside. Put it aside. Put it up. Put it on earring cards, finish it. Put it on earring cards like you're going to sell it, or necklace cards or whatever, and set it aside. Now, I mean, if you get to the point where like you've done only a couple of rounds and you absolutely hate it, yeah, go ahead, rip it apart, start over. But if you get to the point where you've finished an earring and you're like, I'm not exactly sure if I like this design or not, finish the earring, set it aside for, I don't know, a month, let's say, and go back and look at it in a month. Because in a month, you might look at it and you might go, oh, hey, that's a really cool design. All it needs is, and then suddenly you've finished your design and it's better than you thought it would be. Because sometimes the idea in your head, you can't get past that idea. You're like, it's got to look like this, and it doesn't look like that, so I don't like it. But if you put it away and you don't think about it, and it's, tucked away in my to be reviewed pile, and I come back in a month and I'm like, I like the way that looks. It doesn't look like I had intended, but it's pretty cool. So like, this definitely does not look like what I had thought I wanted, but it's pretty darn cool. So I'm going to finish these. I'm going to, do my thing and see, you know, come back in a, you know, couple months once I'm done with these and I've put them on earring cards and I've put them in my for sale stash, because I have a pair of earrings that I made that were bunny bead embroidery, and I had made them and I had looked at it, and what is going on here? What is going... Did I do something goofy? I don't know what I did, but we're going to pull this off the needle because I've done something goofy here. And I've had that happen before where my beads get wrapped around. That's what happened. My thread got tangled in my beads. There we go. All right. So now I need to figure out what I want to do on that end. I think I like the 3, just the 3 on this side, on the bottom or top, whatever I determine that's going to be. So right now I'm just rethreading my needle. Just because I had to pull the needle off to figure out what was going on with my thread. And all right, so I'm going to finish tacking this down. As you can see, it's still loose. So I'm going to come up between the 3, go back through 3, pull that nice and tight. And I think to finish that off, I am just going to take 1 bead and I am going to do a single bead and literally go back through some of those. So then it forms a nice little point there. Yes? No? Because see, that purple bead is technically the one that would be the point. So, don't like it? And this is what I mean. You can rip stuff out if you don't like it. That's why I did that. I wanted to see how it would look. It's easy to pull thread out of a bead. I think I may just take from... Come on. Come on. Yes, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at this and trying to grab thread. By feel. All right, so I want to finish this off. I think I may just go in through here and just see what that looks like. Oops. If I don't get it tucked up. All right, so there we go. So that works. Now that forms my point. So that was what I kind of wanted to do. Now I'm just going to tuck my thread back down through the fabric because I don't need that thread anymore. At the moment, and I like the way that looks. I'm not sure if I like the 4 on this side, but that's fine. I think just because there's 4 on this side and 3 here, but we can still do... I don't know. I'm going to live with that for a few minutes. I will probably come back to it before the next video. I may play with it. I may take out a row. Maybe. Because then things will start to unravel because I've, you know, done a whole... No, I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. And I think I want to make this my top now. We'll live with it. But anyways, I'm going to end this because we're already at an hour and 30 minutes of me gabbing. So I am going to stop for now, and then we will finish this in the next one. So hopefully you're liking this. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.